Good afternoon and a warm welcome to you wherever you're tuned in from, whatever time you get to watch this episode. Karibuni sana as usual. This is Thursday Conversations, but we are having it on Friday because yesterday we were unable to do the live broadcast. But we know that many of us are waiting for this episode as last time we were covering the aspects of grief. We just started an episode of loss and grief. And in the last episode, we defined loss, what loss is, and we saw that loss is a broad spectrum of things. It could be physical, it could be psychological. For example, a mobile phone is a physical loss. A job loss, because it can't be touched, is also a psychological loss. And all of those are losses. And we also saw that it is appropriate to have empathy. And empathy is the ability to wear someone else's shoes and see what they feel, how they feel, so that you understand things from their world of view. And therefore, when people are experiencing loss and grief, it is good to be empathetic. It is also not good to trivialize their losses because we do not know the relationship this person had with either their treasured object or their beloved person or what that job meant to them. It could be many things as well. We also covered the meaning of bereavement, what it is, and what mourning is. We also covered that. And for more details, I'll encourage us to go back to the first video preceding that and then catch up and come on to this one. And therefore, we also said that loss is life and life is loss. So 2020 has been a very tough year. People have lost many things. People have lost their belongings. People have lost their jobs. People have lost loved ones. And therefore, in 2020, we are experiencing multiple losses. And we're going to be covering and seeing what multiple losses are and how to handle them. And so today, we are joined by Mr. Julius Gitari again, and we are going to continue where we left off. And so today we are going to have a deeper look at grief, its determinants, how it's manifested, and if we don't navigate grief properly, how it can become complicated. Karibu sana, Mr. Gitari.
Thank you, Abui. Good afternoon. Is it afternoon or morning? Good
It's
afternoon.
afternoon. It's afternoon.
I hope you are fine.
Mm.
I hope you are from that edge.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
also ready from this side.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the dry run from last week?
Uh, Anything to add? Just maybe to let the audience know that the so-called losses can also bring a dimension of the trauma. Losses depending on the level of attachment that one had with the loved one. It can also move from being just the normal loss to being also a traumatic event. And trauma injury is an injury or a wound, which can be either physical or psychological. And when it become physical, it means that the person who has gone through loss experience the encounter with external pressure, like a road accident causes physical trauma. However, if you watch a scenario like maybe if I can give a weird example, is when there is a fatal accident and you have gone through the scene of the incident, you watch those many bodies on the road, and you close your eyes, you see those images. Even when you read that praise, when you close your eyes, you see those images, it means that you have acquired psychological trauma. So, and injury, psychological traumas have a lot of impacts on the people because they keep on recurring, they keep on disturbing their thought processes, their sleep, and they can make somebody to start now hurting themselves by engaging in behaviors that can be able to help them at least to get some relief. Yet that is not the right way. The best way is to seek for professional counseling services.
Mm.
Maybe that's what I can recap, and summarize in general, Wambui.
And I like what you're saying, because I think some of the people who serve in our forces, the armed
Yes,
forces,
correct,
they go through what you're describing. PTSD, is that it? Pathological
correct,
trauma, right?
perfect.
Post traumatic
Yes,
stress
for traumatic
disorder.
stress disorder. Yes, it is no
Mm,
longer in order. It become now a disorder,
mm,
especially when it has not been processed.
okay. So
Yes,
also encouraging those in such professions where they keep seeing, they experience trauma on a daily basis. Our armed forces, our medical
practitioner.
practitioners, yes,
Correct.
those ones
Mm.
do need support as well.
They, they need regular debriefing, and
Yes.
what it is this we are calling psychological first aid,
Mm-hmm.
PFA. They need it regularly.
Yes.
Instead of majorly focusing on the psychological debriefing. So psychological first aid will be very, 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 very essential for them. If it is done regularly, this will help them to avoid what we call the burnouts for the for the professional practitioners.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I think we will give an entire episode to trauma, so I think we can give it more details when we get to that episode.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's get into grief. I know we defined it last
Yes.
time, but just
Correct.
briefly we can refresh our audience's memory, and at
Yes.
the same time then also go into the determinants of grief.
Perfect. So we defined grief last time as the natural expected reaction to a loss.
Okay.
That's how we define it. It is a natural expected reaction to a loss. So when I go through a loss, naturally I'm expecting to react in a certain way. So that is now what we call grief. So it is natural. Somebody should not shy off, should not feel at least as if they are becoming mad or sick or they have lost their mind. No, it is a normal reaction to a loss, and we say that loss can be either a loss of a relationship, it can be a developmental loss because we are growing on daily basis. It can be a loss of a treasured object like a mobile phone, or even a wedding ring is a treasured object. It can also be as a result of maybe a loss of aspect of self. And aspect of self can be even getting a medical diagnosis that can make me to be amputated. That's a loss of aspect of myself, or even my sight having a challenge that now my opticians recommended me to start now wearing glasses. That is a loss of aspect of self. And so that is the loss matrix in general. In summary, Wambui.
Okay.
So
So
now,
mhm,
sorry. So now when we go now to the determinant of grief, which you said is a natural reaction to a loss that we've gone through, there are several determinants of grief, and this will determine whether somebody is going to grieve or not. There are some people who not grieve, and there are some people who properly grieve, and especially when now these determinants are in place and they are working very well. So uh, you've gone to maybe if I make an example with the death of a loved one, uh, when depending on the way things started before, when somebody there are times you attend funerals and discover that the people who have lost the loved one, they are very composed, and sometimes you tend to wonder whether they have accepted the loss of that particular person or not. So there are various factors when you talk about the determinants of grief. We look at various factors that will make people to grieve, and some people not to grieve at all. And if they grieve, sometimes it might be the so fun like the crocodile tears. So one of the determinants of grief or boy is the nature of the attachment. The nature of the attachment. So if you are so much attached to this particular person, for example, in the case of a husband and the wife, if the relationship has been, I met the kind of a wife I wanted to marry. I met the wife of my dreams. She met the man of her dream. And therefore, and all of us, we were ready for marriage. We were ready to enter the marriage institution. And therefore, our marriage has been functional. In case I die or she die, then uh, I'll grieve so much, she'll grieve so much. So the nature of the attachment is very, 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 very important. And this nature is going to be dictated by how our relationship has been, and whether it has been a genuine relationship or a fake one. If it has been a genuine relationship, definitely uh, the impact would be very, very, very high. The impact of the loss, it will be very, very, very high. So the nature of the relationship is very critical. Uh, and this one, you're trying to look at it in terms of who was this person to me? Was it a child to me? If it is my child, the impact is very, very high. If it is my wife, the same. If it is my mom, the same. So there are those people whom we say that they are very, very dear in our lives, very significant people in our lives. So these people will facilitate the level or the intensity of somebody grieving. Number two determinant is the strength of the attachment. The strength of the attachment. Uh, how was this attachment? I do reach the point of whereby I no longer identify myself with the I language. I always use the we-ness because we have been so much enmeshed in this relationship. So the strength of the attachment, if it was the attachment that at least was so intense that at least we have even been promising one another that in case I happen to die, I wouldn't like to leave you behind. And sometimes even in our discussion, probably I've been telling my spouse that I wouldn't like if it come to death, I would prefer in die the same day, but I wouldn't like to leave me behind. So that is how the relationship has been. That strength of the attachment, in case one of the parties happen to die, then definitely the impact of grieving will be very, very, very high. Not only that, there is the so-called the treasured object that we are having, probably our mobile phone. Maybe it has been taken as you are walking along the streets of Nairobi or other places, the mobile phone has gone, and maybe these are mobile phones that probably you are bought after doing a lot of sacrifices, after probably somebody embracing with it, and now it will go. That will determine how intense you're going to grieve or not. Then the other factor is the security of the attachment. Have you been in a functional relationship whereby uh, uh, you never know the vocabulary known as domestic violence? This relationship has been very, very, very ideal. Your partner has been so good, you've been also very, very, very good. And in case of any conflict, you've been solving them amicably and no fireworks. Then this security of the attachment is very, very, very important. So it will dictate how the level of intensity of grieving of an individual. And these factors, in case we attend our loved ones' funerals, we can be able to gauge and check about the whatever. So if the relationship is the one has been making you to feel at least your price is very high, your self-esteem is high because of the way you've been relating, then definitely in case this person who has been validating you, obviously the intensity will be very, very, very high. Then the other one has to do with the conflicts with the deceased. If there has been if there has been some challenges and probably they are not resolved, in case now one party happened to die, definitely there is what we call the survivor guilt, whereby you are left asking yourself, did I contribute to this? And so this can make somebody to grieve if there was some conflict which were never resolved, and as a result, somebody happened to die. this will determine how intense one is going to grieve. The other factor is the ambivalence in the relationship. Ambivalence has to do with there are some relationship whereby we don't know whether we are loved or whether we are hated, we are there. So it's not very, very clear. And so this kind of a relationship whereby I don't know whether this person is very close to me or very far from me, but we are at peace, we have been very, very well, but the relationship is more of a watermelon relationship. It's not very, very, very clear whether, because sometimes you can leave home, go on a safari, and the other person does not even call you. Yet they are very much concerned about you. So you wonder whether they really love you or not. They're there. They're not concerned, and it's because of their personality. They are comfortable. They don't have any conflict with this. But this one, the ambivalence in the relationship, can have a lot of impact on somebody. Then the other one has to do with the mood of death. How did the person die? How did the person die? Or maybe if it's a treasured object you've lost, how did you lose it? Was it out of carelessness? So, mode of death will also impact how people grieve because there are some deaths which are very complicated. Like if somebody has been eaten by a hyena, or somebody has been swallowed by a crocodile, or somebody has been swallowed by a snake, or this complicated kind of whatever. So that will complicate even the mourning process because when people come together, depending on the culture, what are we going to bury? Are we supposed to mourn? Are we supposed even to say the date for the funeral? And this somebody was eaten by a crocodile, or swallowed by a snake, or a hyena. So this complicates even the grieving, and it will make it very, very difficult for the parties in question. The other factors to do with the historical antecedents, the factors surrounding death, uh, or the events that were happening before death came. Was this person undergoing a number of misfortunes in his or her life before? Were there a lot of the abandonments in this person's life? So those historical antecedents will also determine the intensity of grieving. Was there maybe a terminal illness that has been taking place to an extent that now people have reached a point of saying that there is this individual has really suffered, we better let him or her go. So what factors have been taking place before the death took place? Was it because somebody incurred maybe an accident and was invalid, has been on a wheelchair, and the people have been taking care of this particular individual to a level whereby now they say that, hey, where he or she has reached, God, we are ready to let this particular person go. So those factors will determine. Then is it something instant? Just you were with somebody yesterday, then this morning you're hearing that he or she is not there. Because of the suddenness, actually, sudden losses will really impact on people's grieving process. The other one has to do with our personalities. And the personalities are very funny and very tricky, boy, because there are some people who properly dramatize. There are people who appear just like locks. It is as if nothing has happened. Their life is normal. But in the USA, it is not normal. So these personalities are they are even complicated by the cultures because some cultures will tell you to be strong, soldier on. These are things that happen to men. Yeah, be a man enough. So I don't know that it will be program of Pastor Simon baby of man enough, but there's nothing like man enough here. People are supposed to process their losses, though culture tend to complicate and short circuit our grieving process, but probably we'll talk about this when we look at the task of mourning. Many times our cultures have got a tendency of complicating and delaying us from processing our losses. They delay because they never give us chance instant. They really short circuited us because even that culture itself is uncomfortable. So personalities, and maybe on the area of personality, allow me to say that personality, which is inferred from our traits, there are some people whose personality they are so much introverted, and introverted people normally tend to process their losses or their grief through the analytical process, through their mind, and so they would never express them in terms of emotions, and sometimes they appear as if nothing happened to them, and yet these people, they are the most hurt. And so when now the crowd is there, the multitude is coming to support them. Uh, we complicate the life of these people because they are not able to, they are comfortable when they are alone. So especially during this process when somebody has died and the community is coming, the church is coming, the villagers are coming, the friends are coming. For an introverted person, this delay them from processing their grief process because they are comfortable when they are alone. And therefore, when people come to support the grieving family, it's important also to ensure that we don't take all the time. It's important to give them an opportunity even to be alone because introverts will be able to process when they are alone. Yet we have got now the extroverts who will be very comfortable to tell you again to cry and they are comfortable with their crying, the extroverts. And we normally see that the extroverts will recover faster, besides the fact that they look the most devastated because as they continue to cry and they jump and they make noises, they are facilitating their personal healing, which is very important. But remember again, the environment sometimes might hinder them from expressing, and they say that no, you're going against our culture, you're going against our religious values, and so those factors can short circuit people's ability to process. So personalities are very important, and this personality again also they can complicate and help the children and make the children not even to process because also our culture has got a tendency to imagine that our children are object to be seen, not human beings who have got a say. Yet the children are human beings also in their capacity, and they grieve just like me a do. They get affected just like me a do. And probably maybe one boy when you'll be wrapping up, probably can talk about children and the grief because there's a tendency to overlook them and imagine that they are okay. After all, it is we adults who are affected. The community is coming because of we adults, and that's a major problem that we we tend to bring to the scene. The other factor has to do with the social variables. How is the environment? Is the environment isolationist? Is it supportive? If the environment is supportive, then these people will be able to recover faster. And at the same time, this environment is the family itself having some resources. When we look at the social factors, we're looking at is this family having resources that can assist them to overcome this kind of an issue? Not only that, we can also look at the relatives or the significant others, the people around this individual. Do they have the resources to assist this family or this person? If they have, then the recovery time is shorter. Somebody is able to overgo this very well. Unlike the person does not have any way out, they have to struggle from hand to mouth. So those factors, and you see also in hospitals, people who are admitted in the hospitals, and because they don't have somebody to support them, they take a longer time to recover than the people who are being brought some fresh flowers every morning, some juices. When somebody is struggling with a very very dry brown blend here without even some water, and there's some mungumus, and the KDF is without water, so take a longer time to recover. And sometimes even the church will come and pray with somebody who is their member and forsake this neighbor who is here. and so the neighbor, you leave the neighbor in the hospital and you make that neighbor admitted there because of these social factors. So I think the church evangelists and the people in the hospital mission, they need to be more generous and extend the hand even to the neighbor who was never visited. The other one has to do with the concurrent stressors. I've been hospitalized, I've been released to go back home. Then all of a sudden, I hear the story that my cow has died. Not only my cow, even my chicken has been taken by the eagle. My cat was bitten by a snake. So all those factors will make somebody to grieve the more. And you might even start now having yourself wondering whether you are born to suffer or born to live. So those factors can complicate, can facilitate people to grieve the more. And majorly, in a nutshell, those are some of the factors. Oh boy, I know I've taken much of your time, but I think it's important to mention those factors that determine the grieving process.
I like what you've said. The nature, if I can go over some of them just for clarity,
Yes, certainly.
I like what you said about the nature of attachment. And sometimes this nature of attachment is
Yes.
not, it's not the norm. So for
No.
example, and I'll use myself as an example. Maybe my
Mhm.
mom died early
Yes.
and
Yes.
I was raised by my grandmother.
Correct.
And now, because my mother was not there to raise me, I developed a very strong attachment with my grandmother to the level
Wow.
that she's like my mother.
Actually,
So,
she's your mother. She's your
yes,
mother because he's now an Achala. Yes.
yes. So, the day
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother dies, I may
Yes.
not grieve for her the way other people would grieve for their grandparents because
Yes.
probably their parents were there, but
Correct.
I'll have a stronger, because I had a stronger attachment with her because of the extra role that she played. I will grieve
Correct.
hard for her.
Yes. Very true. That's very true, Aboy.
So it could be whoever who took the shoes of my mother. It could be an auntie, it could be an uncle, it could be a cousin.
Actually, there is something we call object relations. That is now in the areas of theories of grief. There is something called object relations. Object relations can mean anything that when you cling to, it gives you relief and the comfort. So that grandma, the energy that you and the energy that you had invested in your mom, maybe if your mom died, you readjusted and relocated that energy and invested it to your grandmom. Therefore, your grandmom now takes now the lion's share, and therefore, in case she die, at least your grieving process now will be very, very, very intense because of the psychological bonds or ties that you have had with her. And this what will really make you to really become you'll be really hit below the belt because of the intensity of the grieving, and especially in regards to those emotional bonds that are tied to your grandma who really became a natural to you. So attachment is very important. And these people, where the attachment is given, it is dictated by the benefits you have been getting from this individual. And actually, this grieving, boy, maybe something I've forgotten to mention. We grieve because of the benefits we have been getting from the person who has died. So it's not because those people are very, very important. The value vile ulikuwa unamkamua zile faida ulikuwa unapata kwake, the benefit are the ones that make us to experience the pain. If there was no benefit, you not struggle. Actually, grieving is determined by the value you have been getting to somebody. If you have not been sucking somebody, sucking in quotes, you have not been really taking advantage of somebody, you're not grieving. For what?
Mm.
So the values that we be getting from this individual is all that make us to grieve. If they are valueless, if they are liabilities, you you're not even you imagine it's just a branch of a tree that fell down. Yeah.
I like what you've raised. There's usually the primary loss.
Yes.
The primary loss being this person that died. They could be a friend, there could be a relative, and we are using death because it's more. I think it's more visible in terms of the illustrations that we want to make.
Correct.
So there's usually the primary loss, and the primary loss is my friend died, my dad died, my mom died.
Mm,
But there's also secondary losses. And I
perfect.
think per person,
Mm,
secondary losses can be as many as between 20 to 30,
even more.
even
Yes.
more, depending
Yes.
depending on what this person was doing.
Correct.
So, mind elaborating a little bit on secondary and the relationship between primary and secondary losses.
Now, primary losses definitely they have to do with the significant others or things that have been so dear to you, things that have been so dear to you, the so-called treasured objects, like a car. You hear stories in the quotes whereby you've heard of stories or adages saying that sometimes when an accident takes place, the owner of the vehicle first, before they even think about you, who was the driver of that is somebody's vehicle when they're alive. or when the call is made, the first thing they want to know is the status of the vehicle, not you who was there. So the vehicle was very dear to this particular person. So that's a primary loss. And then a significant person, maybe my spouse, my child, my dad, but they are too close to me. Therefore, those they become the primary losses that I go through. Secondary has to do with you are my colleague at workplace, and we've really bonded, and therefore, definitely, in one or the other, I'm touched, and therefore, I have to come in. So, and therefore, the intensity of the secondary losses injury is less than that of the primary. So, for secondary, even the level of grieving is less, and sometimes we want to present the so-called technical appearance because of there is a social me, there is the private me, there is the public me. So the social me would like to appear for the purpose of inclusivity, and therefore I come in there as a supporter in the secondary loss. So when a colleague die at the place of work or where we be differentiating, that is not a primary loss, it's a secondary loss to me, and therefore the intensity of my grieving is less. And that's why you see in the WhatsApp groups, pore sana, and all those kind of comments. Even though they are trying to put those nice wording, the reality is the intensity is less. But you, the person who has lost that particular person, the intensity is very strong, and as a result, people can never know what you are feeling except you. They can only imagine, and so that is why you see messages without the whoa, wow, sorry, pore sana. I know what you are feeling. They don't know. So primary is very significant. Secondary is easily manageable because it has to do with the things outside your circles of confidence. And yet
Okay,
again, by
so
the maybe, and yet again, boy, if the significant people sometimes depending on the relationship, the fact that we mentioned up there, the relationship might you might be there at your own risk, and it is a family. Are you together? You might be there at your own risk, no concern. You are there too for the sake of living and occupying the space. You are born just to grow up, work, be employed, get salaries, pay the rent, and die. And but people outside your circles become so dear to you, they even lay a solid foundation for your life. Now, the so-called the family, the immediate family, now it is no longer the primary loss. Now, those people outside your circles can also be very, very, very dear, very important. They can appear as if they are more important than your immediate biological parents. So that they can also be shifted that direction depending on the functionality and the dysfunctionality in a family. Thank you. Bye-bye.
okay, okay. So how do you describe the benefits? I had you calling about the benefits or the value that someone brings. So if I lost, for example, I'll stay with my mother in the example that I'm using. So my
Mm.
mother was not only my mother, she was not only my parent, she was my friend, she was my when we went for shopping, she was my shopping mate. She was my confidant.
Yes.
What do we call those many roles that she was playing? And some of them even outside of her uh, normal role as a mother.
Those are now the values or the benefits that you have been getting from this relationship. Actually, relationships are supposed to be symbiotic in nature. They are supposed to be symbiotic. Uh, I benefit, you benefit. But you discover that many times those people really get really struck so much. They have been getting a lion's share than the particular person who has died. So you have been really sucking, in quotes, sucking this individual and taking advantage of this individual. I've been an opportunist in terms of the. So if you have to count the blessings or the benefit you have been getting from this individual, they are more than what this individual has gotten from you. You've been eating his or her sweat. So, and as a result, when they die, the big question is, where will you get the milk tomorrow because the cow has died? And this is exactly what makes people to cry. When you see people crying in funerals, it's because of this. The benefit you'll be getting from this individual. So the factors or the benefit or the value you've been getting from this individual is the one that will make us to cry hysterically and to say, oh, gap has been left. You don't know who is going to fail. It's only you who do not know how to fill the gap because you have been dependent on this individual. If you had, and that's why counseling now should begin to ask people to be independent instead of being dependent. The complication of the grieving process, the complication of the process is because we acquired learned helplessness behavior. We lacked skill because this person was everything to us. Actually, the individual was like oxygen to you. That's why you say you don't know who will fill that gap. But life must continue, whether they are there or not. They are not. Actually, the reality is they are not oxygen to you, and that's something we need to really understand. So those benefits, they are the ones that you really suck this individual to an extent that you've forgotten whether there's any other right to live. And that's how now people need to be empowered. And I have no apologies making that kind of a comment because I know some people might feel that now I'm going against what they think. Those benefits, the values I'll be getting from you is the one that will make me to have a lot of intensity, to cry, to mourn, and sometimes even to take so many years before I let you go. I'll even do anniversaries for you because I'm still having a learned helplessness behavior. I've not, my life stopped at the point whereby I put a signing board sunrise and sunset. So my life stopped there. So I cannot move on. And that's now bring the so-called delayed grief or complicated or pathological grief. One boy.
I think that is very clear. That is very clear. Thank you for elaborating that. And also, when you said the strength of attachment, what came to mind? I remember, and I think we've observed it in several couples, especially. Um, you'll notice when one couple dies, a short period later, the other one follows.
Yes, that's on a company, especially the elderly. Especially
Sorry?
the elderly. Especially the elderly.
Yeah, especially in the elderly.
Yes. Mm.
The death of one usually the other one follows closely, and I think
Correct.
that shows how strongly attached
That
that they were.
that relationship how it has been. Yes, it has been a very,
Yes.
very healthy relationship to an extent that now these people understood the biblical principle of enjoying the wife or the husband of your youth because now there is no other person who can be able to make you to enjoy. Even your mates, yeah, your age mates cannot measure up to that level of the relationship, the freedom, the liberty, and the way you've been sharing in times of happiness and the challenges, and trying to clothe one another instead of now watching one another's dirty linen in public. That in itself, when this person goes, you wonder, you are left in a state of apathy, and that's why I mean at times people, the other team will die very fast.
Okay. So I think we can move on to manifestations of grief.
A manifestation of grief.
I have
How
a I want to clarify something. The tasks of mourning, are we going to cover them under the manifestations of grief?
no, no, no. The task now can come now when we are looking, maybe during our last session,
Mhm.
when we'll be dealing with the techniques of processing these losses. Probably we can combine it together,
Okay.
the techniques.
Okay.
Maybe now the most obvious thing that you'll be able to pick when people are grieving the normal. Maybe for the in the interest of time, probably we can divide now those manifestation of grief in terms of four categories. That we look at the emotional manifestations, the behavioral manifestations, the cognitive or the mental or the thought manifestation, and the physical. For in the interest of time, Wambui. So, when somebody has lost something very significant, or an aspect of self has been lost, or maybe a treasured object or a developmental loss has taken place, in terms of the emotions, in terms of the emotions, majorly the most obvious emotion that is likely to appear to this individual is sadness. And sadness, when somebody is sad, because we said that grief is the natural expected reaction to a loss. So they will be sad. But when talking about mourning, we say that mourning now can be manifested outward. Mourning can be manifested in terms of the crying and the shouting and the doing all manner of drama. So somebody will be sad. This individual will be sad, and you can be able to notice the countenance of this particular person because they are in a different world. They're in a like in a dreamland where they are. So you can be able to know somebody is sad, and this sadness we have a lot of complication because when I'm sad, even I don't have the appetite to eat. When I'm sad, it will manifest itself in terms of when maybe I see you people coming to support me. There's a tendency for me to shed tears and not necessarily shouting, but just my eyes tears start now dropping down for no apparent reason. And so this is the most profound emotion that will come out very strongly. And we're talking about emotions. Actually, emotions are stronger. When talk about emotions, these are a stronger feeling than the normal feeling. So then, of course, because I'm undergoing the grieving process, there will be also anger, and this anger will be twofold. It might be anger directed towards self, what we call the self anger, and the one which is directed towards is very, very dangerous because I can hurt myself. It might be what we call the other anger. Other anger can be directed to God because somebody might imagine that the Creator has let them down. It might be directed to the person who is dead because sometimes if I take an example of somebody who has been ailing in the hospital, sometimes they send for you to go and they see them in the hospital. But then because of the commitment you're having at the place of work or maybe in your other activities, you have not gotten time to go there. The moment you get time to go there, or boy, is when now they have gone through the five stages of the grieving process. The last stage of beginning, and so when you arrive there, they don't even receive whatever you are taken for them, even in terms of the food. So they started now giving you task. Go get for me this, and they'll give you complicated things to go and buy for them out there because they are aware now they are going to die. So the moment you leave, they cover themselves with the sheet and they die. When you're coming back, they are no longer there. So you'll be angry. This person, these are not the character. They didn't tell you that whatever they wanted to tell you, and now they are sending you before they tell you what they want them to tell you. So you become very, very angry with them, very mad, because you are left with something called unfinished business. So you might direct that anger to the dead person. So it is called other anger. You might direct it to God. You might direct it to the devil and even to the significant others. And therefore, when you see those people, you are abusing them when they are 5 kilometers away because you are releasing anger towards them. It is very common, anger. And anger is a very strong emotion. And all by the way, incidentally, all these emotions, they are the cut or the negative side. And that's why counseling is very important to assist people now to convert these emotions into constructive ones. These are the edged swords, but now at this particular time, majorly they are cutting on the negative side of the divide. Then there is the guilt as another emotion. And by the way, guilt is a type of anger. Guilt is a type of anger, Wambui, which is now directed towards self. And the guilt immediately comes because we've gone against our moral code. What you believed to be the right thing, you've not honored it, and therefore you start feeling guilty. And when people become guilty, they can develop a behavior called self-reproach, whereby you start now hurting yourself because you've come to the end of the road. You think you've been judged, and therefore you can do a lot of rituals to cleanse yourself or to remove that kind of a guilt which has happened. And this can be a killer disease. Many times people commit suicide because of the guilt that they have gone through. And sometimes people will revert to behaviors which are unacceptable, like taking beer and engaging in reckless sexual behaviors, smoking, and other activities, because not because of anything, but because they are feeling guilty for what happened. And that's why we say when people are undergoing these losses, they should never take any medication unless prescribed by the physician. Because when you say medicate yourself, it's a way of running away from the reality, and that is not okay. Another emotion which is very prevalent is anxiety. And this anxiety is also a type of anger. Anxiety is a type of anger, and we can also say that anxiety is a mood disorder. And therefore, when people are undergoing these losses in their life, they become anxious. And this anxiety, which I'm saying, is a type of mood disorder. It can be summarized into three main categories of anxiety. The first one is what we call the moral anxiety, which can be combined with the guilt, because moral anxiety, you've gone against your moral count, you've gone against what is perceived as something right. So that will cause somebody to have moral anxiety. It can be reality anxiety, and that is justified because the person was real who has died. Therefore, that anxiety, you are justified to be anxious that way. You are justified because, and therefore, the level of anxiety will be equivalent to the attachment that you had with the loved one who has died. Then the other one has to do with the neurotic anxiety. When it becomes neurotic, that type of anxiety is the neurotic anxiety. When it has reached the point of neurotic anxiety, now it has become a disease. It is now a disorder. And therefore, this individual is very, very nervous. Whatever you are touching, you are sweating, your hands are shaking. When you stand, your brain sits down, and all the point that you want, they disappear. You are even seeing as if even you are likely to die anytime. Just waking up very fast and feeling dizziness, you think that hey, you're also going like them. So it makes somebody to be dysfunctional. It affects our functionality. So that is neurotic anxiety. And neurotic anxiety is very prevalent in people. There are people who don't want to walk when there is total darkness because lest the darkness change and become an animal. And there is no animal, it's just an imagination at the back of the mind. So neurotic anxiety, and it can really devastate somebody. It can affect somebody's functionality, and it can impair you. Even at the workplace, you can reach a point of not being functional, and therefore the organization has nothing to do with you other than to give you a circuit letter or go for leave, then compulsory leave. Then when you come back, the show cause why letters had come. The other one has to do with the helplessness. When people have undergone through this kind of losses, there is a tendency to feel that at least I have come to the dead edge. There is no forward, there is no backward. So that state of helplessness is very, very, very common. And I would encourage people come to support those who have gone through these losses, not to facilitate an individual to feel more than the helplessness that they are going through. And that's why as a disclaimer, I'll put here is that never tell those people sorry. Never tell them pore. If you yourself you didn't like to be told pore, never tell people pore, because you are facilitating a feeling which is helplessness. You are making them now to make helplessness, which is a feeling which is easily manageable, to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we shouldn't really reinforce that behavior with our many pores. What people need at this particular moment is your presence, not the many ones you might make, because you can end up hurting them the more and they are already hurt. So just your appearance is very important. They need your presence, not the present, not the gift you bought from the market. They don't need the presence. They need your presence. Then the other feeling is shock. And actually, shock will come instantly. Shock will come immediately after the incidents. The moment news have been broken, then somebody will resort to shock. And this shock can make some people to be immobilized. They're in a state of shock. They can become immobilized completely. So that is an emotion you expect to see in somebody. And then when the reality strike, then they're also likely to manifest yearning, whereby you are longing. And that's why you see people are saying, I also would like to be given a chance to go to the morgue and see this particular person. That behavior is facilitated by yearning to see this particular person. So, and it is important to allow people, especially the immediate family members, to go to the morgue to see that body because of this behavior called yearning, this feeling called yearning. So they are yearning, they are not comfortable with the loss that they are going through when they are left alone. They didn't want to see this person again and again. And you see people now getting preoccupied with looking at the albums, looking at the photos in the house. If there are some photos there in the house, it's because of this yearning feeling. Then there is the feeling of emancipation, whereby you want to let go this particular person. You want to let them go. Though it creates now the push and the pull experience when somebody is emancipated, and there is also another feeling of relief. And this relief will come depending on the factors we mentioned about factors that will make people to grieve or not to grieve. So if the attachment was not secure, if there were no much benefit, wow, when somebody die, is a shy of relief. And so the best thing you can do is to have the so-called the crocodile tears, but the reality remains that you are saying that the whole God, you've answered my prayer. And you wonder which God is this who has answered the prayers, but depending on the relationship that was there before. Then maybe you can, there's also something, another very intense emotion or feeling that come with the loss is numbness. And this numbness, I want to elaborate it a bit further, Wamboi. This numbing can make people now to start even mutilating their bodies. You can pull the hair from your hand, and with no anesthesia, and you not feel any pain. You can pick up, you can pick up a piece of knife and cut yourself, and you suck that blood, and you're not feeling pain because of this motion called numbing. So you can mutilate yourself because of this numbing effect that has taken place. And this reminds me about some of the victims I've encountered, especially in case of the terror attacks, whereby somebody has been shot the leg, and therefore the leg has become numb, and therefore the individual is not feeling any pain because the system came in and they meant you not to accept the reality. Therefore, the system became numb. So this numbing can make people to destroy themselves. It is this numbing that also makes people sometimes to start engaging in maladaptive behaviors. You can even become a devil and start down doing weird things. You are using something that is hurting you. You are cutting yourself. You are even pricking yourself. You are even biting other people because to you you're not feeling pain. So you imagine even other people are not feeling pain like you. So it's a challenging emotion, this numbing. And then there is also the loneliness, whereby now at the night you are searching even to see where the pillow is. That loneliness is very devastating because sometimes you'll be alone and you start hearing the particular person talking to you, but the person died, and this death is not reversible. So they are not there, but you stay alone somewhere and you start seeing them talking to you. You see them clearly, giving very nice stories. So this loneliness can be also very, very dangerous. Let's look at the physical manifestation first. Boy, physical manifestation.
I have a question on emotions. And
Yes.
thank you for that very long list. Is shame likely to be encountered, and when?
Sorry. Yes. Welcome.
Shame.
So I've not gotten you well.
Can shame be encountered?
Shame can be encountered, and by the shame is also an emotion. Actually, shame is an emotion. It can be encountered, and it will be encountered by the survivor. And this now takes us back to the mode of death. There are some deaths we don't want to really put in public, especially if somebody was inducing an abortion. If somebody was abortion is something very, very embarrassing for a boy. So there are some factors that will elicit shame, and the shame is also very, very dangerous. Shame can make somebody to commit suicide very fast because you cannot withstand. Because shame, what it does is that it affects your image. It eludes you of your image completely, and this is the image that has taken me so many years and so much time to build. So when it is eroded by just a small behavior, it will lower your self-esteem. When it lower your self-esteem, you reach a state of apathy. When you reach a state of apathy, then you've got no interest in life. You can take medication, you can take a loop, you can jump on this standard living when it is passing, you can climb a cliff at the jump, you can drown yourself in the water. Imagine that now you really restitute for the shame. Restitution is not done through those kind of destructive behaviors. So it's very, very, very prevalent depending on the mode of death. If it was death that has to do with immorality, if it was death that has to do with a behavior which is perceived by society not to be something acceptable, like the abortions, like the rape, and all those kind of behaviors, then definitely it will elicit that kind of a feeling. Thank you, boy.
Okay. So the physical manifestations of grief.
Physical manifestation of loss of grief. Now, and this is very important because now this is something you can be able to attest. When somebody is grieving a boy, they are likely to experience in terms of physique, their physical makeup, their physique. Now we look at the body itself, how it is. There will be the feeling of tightness in the chest. You feel as if ever since that incident took place, it's as if you are carrying some heavy load on your chest, and sometimes you are feeling as if your chest is congested, and sort of there is a short of breath. It's as if your lungs are not taking enough oxygen or enough air from the environment. So there is that feeling of uh, there's a kind of feeling of chest congestion. They even your throat, the so-called the kiwaru, it will be stuck on the throat, and it cannot go down. It cannot come out. It is there. Sometimes it will even cause wounds because you're not eating. So there's that tightness in the chest, and it is this tightness that will make people even not to have the appetite to eat. Then and that's why we encourage people they should really eat. People need to be able to eat when they undergo through this kind of a situation. Then there is also the hollowness in the stomach. It is as if some intestines were removed from their stomach. It's as if your stomach is no longer complete. There is that hollowness. You are somebody will be experiencing hollowness in the stomach, and also some pain on the chest, even on your shoulders. You'll be feeling some feelings of some pain as if you are carrying some very heavy weights, and that weight really affected you. And in reality, there's nothing you've carried. There's nothing you've carried. It's only the grief which is being masked. We call it somatization. The soma is the body. So it is the body, the soma, which is now masking that grief. Then there will be also that I've talked about the breathlessness. You're feeling as if oxygen is not sufficient, and you see sometimes it is cold. People are trying even to open up the fan because sort of they are feeling that the room is stuffy, or the air outside is there is no today there is no much wind. I don't know why the sea is not really bringing the waves. Then there is also the aspect of energy drain. Sort of your energies are drained. It's as if you are feeling you are somehow feeling very, very lazy, feeling as if you are over exhausted, you are over fatigued. And in this condition also, an indicator of knowing whether you are normal or having a challenge is that also there will be lack of sexual desire. There will be lack of sexual desire. Yes, sexuality is an aspect of helping us to know whether we are normal, not normal. And it's a debatable issue. Then there is also, of course, depending on the way the grief is masked, and depending on the gender, there will be the diarrhea. So when people say that, hey, my stomach is running, then understand it, there is nothing to do with the food poisoning one boy. It's not for the poisoning. It's people. It is the body, which the physical body, which is now masking the grief. There will be also the dry mouth, and so they need maybe to have the alimi oil near you, because the mouth will be dry, not because you are doing a lot of work, but because deep within you, a lot of work which you're doing, you are processing things in your mind. A lot of energy is being used in the mind, and as a result, the mouth will be drying. then this individual also, they will be too hypersensitive to noise. You are asleep, according to you, you are asleep, but you can be able to count everything that happened last night when you are deep asleep in your house. You can narrate the people, the things you had last night, step of a frog, the cockroaches dancing, you had, and the neighborhood didn't hear, and they were nearer those cockroaches than you. So if it's a sound of the rain, you know it rained last night. If there was lightning, you also tell people that there was rain and lightning. They never noticed. So this individual will be able to be that way. And then there is the aspect of a sense of depersonalization, whereby you are feeling as if you are not the one. You are feeling as if you are not the one. You can bypass yourself. So some things will do you wonder when you come to yourself whether you are the one or not. That is what we call a sense of depersonalization. Yes. Sort of you develop a spread personality, the true you and the false you. Uh, and then there's also your muscles is as if they have gotten some sores, they have some wounds inside, or sometimes you're feeling that they are very, very weak. They sort of the leg does not want to walk, the hand as if it is as if it does not want to raise up, and somebody might you might also see this individual trembling, and when they eat, they wake up when their stomach is bloated because of indigestion, and there is also the general lack of sleep, which is very common among the many other physical manifestation. Waboy.
Thank you for that. We can move on to the cognitive or mental
The mental manifestation.
manifestations. Yes.
Uh, Now, this one has now to do with the thought processes. Obviously, somebody will be looking at you, but they're not seeing you. So there will be lack of concentration. They are looking at you, but they're not seeing you. The mind is very scattered. It is processing so many things. So you might think that they saw you, but they didn't see you, and it is not ignorance. And they are not. They mean they didn't see you. So don't imagine that they saw you in a certain corner of the city and they didn't greet you. It is only you who disturb yourself. They didn't see you. They were processing so many things in their head. So there is then also now in terms of so there will be poor concentration, and then they start making a lot of mistakes because things are not there is the racing of ideas which is making the mind not process things fully. So there will be a lot of mistakes. Then forgetfulness also will come. And it's that somebody can forget they are a friend very dear to you and we can forget you. Don't even think that they are pretending. They are not pretending. They mean they can't recall your name because mentally there is a lot which is happening at the back of their mind. So you look at them. So their face is supposed to be written ambitious than I look. Their face is supposed to be given that to be put that sticker ambitious than I look because there's a lot of things they are spending. Then again, they become very, very, very impatient. There's the aspect of them becoming impatient, and of course, they also be depressed, uh, and because of this depression, this is somebody who has been very hyperactive, somebody who has been very, very jovial. All of a sudden, these days they are silent. There is also the disbelief. They cannot believe it really happened. Ni kama video, ni kama drama. There is a disbelief. Completely, it's not real. What according to them, it is not real. So there's a disbelief that they experience, and also a lot of confusion. That's why you hear a lot of the Bonda people, especially in this this hooting for this individual who is on the street, but they don't know whether they are on the right track or not. That confusion is very common to this individual. Please don't label, don't criticize this particular person. It's a temporal state. It's a temporary state. So don't laugh at them. Just understand them. They're in that state of confusion because of what is going on. Then there's also a lot of preoccupation with the disease or with that item. There's the preoccupation. This preoccupation sometimes is making them to reach a state of despair, whereby they are also feeling that it is better for them if they had died than the particular person who has died. So there is that preoccupation which become an obsession. That's why when you see, even when they meet their friends, after 2 minutes, they want to be alone because of that preoccupation with the dead. So understand them, they are not pretending, they mean it. And sometimes, in terms of the thought, they reach a state of developing hallucinations. Hallucination is seeing and hearing the things which are not there. Yes, to them they are hearing, so they start now hallucinating as they walk on the road. They are seeing those people, and they are hearing those people talking. And there's also the tendency to have what we call the sense of presence, whereby you are seeing as if that particular is still, that person is still there, a sense of presence. You can even call that person by name, and they are somewhere in a cold fringe out there waiting for the day you're going to rest them. So there's a sense of presence, and sometimes you are alone in the house, or even you're in the midst of the people, then you tap the person next to you and you call them by that name of the person who has died. That is sense of presence, which is manifested in terms of thought processes. And that's why sometimes it becomes difficult for them even to go and sleep, because when they go to sleep, this person is going to appear to them directly. There's that challenge of the sense of presence. Yes,
So
in brief.
have we exhausted the manifestations of grief?
Maybe,
Emotional,
and maybe I can
physical,
look at
and
the
cognitive.
behaviorally, maybe in terms of the behaviors. Probably in terms of behaviors, you can also mention some few aspects of the behavioral manifestation. And in terms of the behaviors, the most obvious is the sleep disturbances. Sleep disturbances. They can develop a condition known as insomnia or hypersomnia. Insomnia is whereby they have got sleep disturbances. Hypersomnia is whereby they are sleeping for longer hours than normal. Then there will be the normal loss of appetite, and that's why this person needs to be encouraged to eat the more, even though they don't want to eat. There will be also the absent-mindedness behavior. They are somehow appearing as if they are not there. Then there will be also the aspect of social withdrawal, and therefore, depending on the personality of the individual, there are those who will be very comfortable when they are alone. There are those who require to be among others. But and this behavior is very, very common. This aspect of social withdrawal is very common, and it's a some temporal thing. Then there is a lot of experiencing of the dreams of the deceased. Yeah, the dreams, their dreams are so much preoccupied with the deceased, and there is also a lot of avoidance of reminders of the deceased. So they don't want to mention that the name of the particular person. Sometimes you see them, even if they have got the money to buy this book we call the condolence book, they don't want it to be bought because it's a reminder of those things. They don't want to see the photos, even if they are the videos that you are taking, they don't want. So they want to avoid seeing those things that are reminding them of that particular person. And there is also the tendency to be very, very restless. They become very, very restless. And also the other behavior which might be very common, which I really encourage because of the value it has, is crying. And we need to encourage people about the value of tears. Tears are very medicinal. Help people be encouraged to cry. That does not make me now to revert from being a man to being a kehe. No, no, no. I still remain a man, but a very, very healthy man that has processed the emotion that could have become toxic to me. It does not reduce your gender. It does not reduce your position that you're holding in the society or in the country. So let people be encouraged to cry. Yes. In a nutshell, maybe that's some of the behaviors I'd like to mention for now, Amboy, in the interest of time.
Yeah. So we'll move on quickly to
Yeah.
helpers. Uh, as a helper, and I think this year we are experiencing a lot of loss around us,
Mm,
especially I think this particular week,
yes.
everyone and the previous week, everyone has either lost someone close to them. If you look around social media, there's a lot
Mm,
there's a lot of grief going
yes.
on in the world.
I
So
concur
as
with
a helper, sorry,
I concur with you, Amboy. I concur with
yes,
you. Process have been very, very prevalent.
yes. So
Yes.
as a helper, Why is it
Mm.
important for me to process my own grief first before I go to help others? And if I don't, what are the consequences?
Uh, Allow me to, to take you back a bit, especially in regard to still the issue to do with the death that to do with the death that the dying, and I've attended a number of funerals who are boy, and I will say the good Samaritans in quotes, they really want to help this family which is bereaved seriously. The heart is very much willing, but you discover that what we are doing is not helping those people, but dealing with our own issues of death that is dying. And so, and that's why you've seen sometimes maybe it is me who has lost a very important person in my life. You, one boy, being a very, very close friend of mine, my colleagues at workplace, my friends that have been where I have really spent a lot of time, they will come to support me because I'm very dear to them. And so when they come, the person who is supposed to, if they come to cry, the person who is supposed to cry the more, it is me, not them. Because to them, the death of my significant person is secondary, not primary. But to discover the moment where boy will bring the body to the church or to the graveyard, somebody who is not even related to me or to the person who has died in my life, they will really cry until the community is left wondering, what has been happening? What has been happening is this particular person has a number of people that they never buried in their life. And the society complicated and never give them the opportunity to deal with it. So it has been manifested at my place. The death of my person, the presence of the coffin, remind them of the many people they have never buried in their lives. That's why they will cry hysterically, they will manifest. They can even complicate the burial process. They can even tamper with the timetable which was organized, the schedule of event how they should follow one another. So they are processing their own and they need to be given time to do that. Now, let's look at this person of the helper, and that is whereby now the environment, the people close to me, the people close to you, they need to, why it is important for them to deal with their losses before they come to help me with my losses or to help people who have lost their loved one. Like the way you are saying that in the course of this week, people have really lost very close friends, very close relatives. One of the reasons is because if you don't deal with your grief work, or boy, it will affect your work. I have lost a loved one. You have lost a loved one. You come now for help to me, and I've not processed my own. I definitely, instead of me helping you using my skills and techniques to support you, I'll cry the more until you start saying that, hey, this issue that has made the helper to cry, even God cannot help it. So I'll make it to be more stuck. And I might join us with you. We cry and we decide to hurt one another, to abuse even the community because we are dealing with unfinished business. So why help us require to process their losses before they go to help the people? Number one reason is so that their grief does not affect their work with the clients. And again, to ensure they don't get stuck, because now I knew I'll be very, very effective and efficient to you, but then your grief reminded me my own. Therefore, the resources I had to assist you, they got depleted. So I get stuck, you get stuck, and therefore the next result, we can engage ourselves in something called the emotional dance. I hold on you like a serpent or a python, and I really cry. You become a shoulder for me to cry, and you are coming to be given what? An opportunity to process your own. So these are two sicklings. The cancer is a sickling, the client is a sickling, two sick people. I don't know the one who will take the other one to the bed or the one who will now hold the other and they go home. So it become a challenge. And that is, you hear people saying, if my client is crying, can I cry? No. They didn't come to facility to cry. You're supposed to help them not to cry by helping them to process what? The crying. So you should not cry with them. You need to help them to deal with their crying because they are processing their grief. Number three reason why you need to process your own before you come to help with my own is to avoid aspect of transference and the counter transference. Let me elaborate the two terms. Transference is whereby the client or the person who has come for help starts seeing the counselor or the helper as if he or she is the person who caused them to experience or to go through the problem they are in. That is called transference. Counter transference is me, who when I look at you, you remind me I'm seeing you exactly as the person who caused this condition to come to me. So, and therefore, when I start now perceiving it, because transference on both is twofold, it can be positive or negative. When you hear people saying that damu yangu na yako haisigizani, it has to do with what? Transferences and the counter transferences. There's nothing like that. Is a negative transference. Wakati when I say your blood and mine they are compatible, damu yako na yangu zinasikizana, is about now positive transference or counter transference. So these stories of blood, it is people with unfinished business which require to be processed. The other thing is to ensure you don't engage in behaviors of trying to rescue the clients. Clients didn't come to you so that you can be able to rescue them. No, you're not a rescuer. The way the medics say that they treat and the God heal. Similarly, you are a facilitator of the healing process of the client, but you're not the healer. Therefore, when you have not processed your own, you now tend to rescue them instead of helping them. You become now a Red Cross in the quote person to do the rescue mission and the evacuation. That is not your role. Clients are supposed to go through the process of the pain so that they can be able to process it effectively and efficiently. The other reason is to avoid sympathizing with the client instead of empathizing. Now, when you sympathize with the client or boy, you become more affected than the person who lost the loved one. So you should never sympathize. When you sympathize, you carry the burden of the client. There is no room for you as a helper to carry the burden. So stop sympathizing. When you sympathize, you are making yourself a small Jesus, and therefore that is blasphemy of the highest order. Don't sympathize with people, empathize with them. Put yourself in their shoes as if you're the one, but remember you're not the one. Rest, you start even misusing your resources in the name of going to help this particular person. Who told you clients have got no resources for coping? Clients have got resources. So empathize with them, let them feel understood. That is what they expected from you, and empower them to stand on their two feet. The other reason why it's important for you before you go to help to first of all process your own is so that you can be able to understand the mourning process and what it takes to go through the loss, because sometimes we have not understood it. So when you process your own, now you understand that mourning is not a miracle, it's not an event, it's not an action, it is a process. It is something that goes in stages. So don't expect instant results. It's a journey which can take even years, depending on our personalities, which can take even months, which can take even a day. So it's a journey that people have to go through, and therefore it can catch up with you anytime. Sometimes you go, and then so there are times when be very, very happy. There are some days of ups, some days of downs. So it's not something that we are going to say because somebody is mourning within the next 2 weeks, it is over. And that is a stage you might many a time people tend to make a mistake, one boy, that when I give you money, as my contribution, now you have overcome. That's not the truth. Money is relevant at this particular time. We need to give people time because we need to go through stages. And earlier on, I mentioned about the 5 major stages that one will go through in processing their griefs. The other one is for the purpose of emotional replenishment. Imagine you are tired. You come to somebody who has been battered and butchered by these circumstances. You will definitely develop a lot of wear and tear within you. And this wear and tear will cause you burnout. When you burn out, definitely your glory, the glory of your professionalism is going to be impaired. And as a result, it will not be useful. Your effort will be totally counterproductive. And the other reason is to be able to positively face aspect of your own mortality, because death bring the universality. Yeah, you discover that if because like maybe for my case, uh, the first death I encountered was I was at the age of 19 years. So from when I was born, All the way to 19 years, I have never experienced death. So it is other people who die, not our own. But the day I lost my dad at the age of 19, this is the time now I understood what it means to lose somebody. The cold breeze I experienced was a total learning experience, and it made me now to have the soft skills and even to understand this journey of the grieving process. So we are able to face our own aspect of mortality, and this also made me to realize that if my dad can die, definitely even me. Uh, I am able to feel Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27, that it is appointed for a man wants to die and thereafter judgment. So the other reason is to avoid exercising the sense of power. To avoid exercising the sense of power. There is a tendency sometimes to go and take charge. I arrive on the scene and as I become not the spokesperson. I'm the one even to give the instruction. And from the leadership positions, and especially from the grungy position, there's the tendency to take over people's funeral as if it is your own. And it's not on giving instruction. That is a sense of power we are exercising. We need to be sensitive even from our podium, even from our pulpit. We need to be sensitive to these people, and they know it is them who have lost, not me. And therefore, when you have encountered your own, you have processed your own. This is the time you'll be now more humane in helping people to process their own, and even you'll be very keen, or so that you don't also misuse the application of the scriptures. So the sensitivity of the tyranny of scriptures, so you can be sensitive to the people there, because sometimes we exercise the sense of power, and when you exercise this sense of power, people feel that you took over, you stole the show from them, yet they want to own up it is them. Then maybe the final reason for avoid because of time is also to ensure that this person of the helper, you the helper, uh, you are able to help the client to explore issues in depth and utilize their own personal resources effectively and efficiently, because you have been able to process your own. You've been able to process your own. Imagine it become very, very, very easy, because you know the length and the breadth of the issues which you explore, and therefore when you handle the client, you're able to take them to that kind of a safari, and this will facilitate them to utilize the resources and recover very, very, very easily. Oh boy, back to you.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm realizing we are really out of time. I don't know. Do you have time to cover complicated grief?
Just to mention it, Wamboy,
Mm-hmm.
just to mention it,
Mm-hmm.
uh, when you talk about complicated grief, the other name for complicated grief is what we call pathological grief. Uh, Pathology is a disease. When you talk about pathology now, it has moved from the normal grief to a disease. It has now become a disease. Then also the other term for it is what we call abnormal grief. So complicated, delayed, or pathological grief is one and the same thing, complicated. So it is a grief that has been deranged because and because it was not processed when it was supposed to be processed. It manifests itself at the time when you less expect it. Uh, because it has a lot to do with the unresolved issues that emerge because it was never processed. And therefore, small triggers from the environment can make you to go down because it was delayed, and therefore a lot of things were not resolved because what we did is that we delayed, we repressed. Instead of processing it, we put it in the unconscious mind so that we can be able to move on with the life. And because of that, we never resolve what we're supposed to resolve. Now it manifests itself at a time when you least expect it. Triggers, because like in conflicts, the, man, the latent conflicts, the latent conflict which will come out in terms of the manifest and become very, very destructive. If a conflict become, we don't resolve it, it go down, we repress it. And that's why the question about now whether we forgive and forget or whether we repress comes in now. So because we didn't let it go, a small trigger, bring it back, and now you become more devastated than the way you could have processed when it appeared. That is what we call now the pathological grief or the delayed grief, Wambui. And it can really cause a lot of challenges, including making somebody to become sick and hospitalized. And when you ask what caused this, it is the rat that died, and the rat was supposed to die, but the rat triggered losses that were never processed. Just a rat or a housefly. Yes, it died, and you really treated the housefly, and as a result, now these triggered things which were ratted. So people need to really process this because now when it's delayed, the time now we are coming to have this individual, they're in a state of post-traumatic stress disorder. The injury came, it was not processed, we only applied oil on it, it has not been processed, therefore it in delay until now it become a PTSD thing. So what we'll be processing for this individual are two things. We'll be processing grief and at the same time trauma, which they went through, which is in terms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Back to you.
Thank you for that. We are way past our time, but it has been a very informative session. I don't underrate the value of all that you've shared with us. And as we continue, I'm sure people may want to reach you or contact you even as you raise very pertinent issues on loss and grief. So do you mind sharing your contacts, or where can people find you in the event that they want to contact you offline?
Uh, yes, my contact Wambui is in the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the phone number,
Mm-hmm.
they can use 0733
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm typing for them in the comments.
55.
55.
Sorry?
I'm putting for them in the comments.
29. Oh, okay. Yeah, they can use 0733
Mm-hmm.
9955 and 29.
Sorry. So that's 0733995599 again.
Sorry, 29, not 99, 29
Oh,
at the
29.
end.
Okay.
Or 0720
Uh-huh.
97
97
50
50
49.
49.
Yes, they can send a message, they can tag, they can call,
Mm.
and we can be able to share or to help one another to some extent.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We will continue next episode on other factors of grief, and an encouragement to our audience. Whatever time you get to watch this episode, please leave your questions and your comments so that we can respond to them as much and as thoroughly as we can. So until next time, kwaherini and asanti sana.
Bye bye, Wamboi.
Bye.